BJ and I got the black shirt memo today.
Yeah. How we doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay. All right. You're going to get the lead off topic today, so you're going to take first crack.
Oh, because you look ready.
Oh, I'm not ready. I'm just like ready to talk about different stuff. For those of you watching, expecting the MLO Bros to be on today, they are still MIA. They are off grid. I hope and expect to hear from them maybe sometime soon, but kind of curious.
You've not even heard from them?
Not heard what's going on. Like, so.
Uh-oh, we just did something. That's our other podcast. There we go.
Better? What the heck happened?
I don't know. Bumped something.
All right.
Bumped something. Do you think can't help but wonder, like, were they given a cease and desist or something?
I don't know. And, you know, those guys, they are really good about being sort of like the center of fire, right? They attract that energy to them. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's just a matter of time before, you know, they're lightning rods. So lightning rods get struck by lightning, and I'm just interested to see what kind of lightning struck.
I don't know. Maybe I'm naive and I don't always get to see them super often. I catch bits and pieces here. I'll be honest, I don't always understand what the outrage is about. Sometimes, I guess.
Okay.
I see it sometimes. I don't know. Just my 2 cents is I'm like, what exactly are they doing that is so controversial? Like they talk about stuff. We talk about stuff. Lots of people talk about what's going on. They do it publicly. Maybe.
So in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
Anytime anything happens that's not status quo, right? It creates sensitivities. You have people that are extremely upset about it, people who are cheering it on, right?
Yeah.
So consider that like a hornet's nest. If you walk up to the hornet's nest and you try not to offend the people that are upset, and you try to, you know, be considerate with the people who are, then you don't rustle. The hornets stay in their nest, and it just takes a nice, graceful exit from our attention. But the MLO Bros are, when they see a hornet's nest, they punch it, right? And the more sensitivity there is, the more leverage on the punching that happens.
They're not ones to de-escalate a situation.
It's the opposite of that. You have people who ramp it up. And, you know, and what's good about that in the public eye right now is, especially, you know, growing up in the business world when I did, there was a whole lot of power and control to be able to get information and things that were happening. So people were protected from that information. And so the more powerful you are, the better news and headlines you made, and all your, you know, your bad deeds, the misdeeds, were kind of like silenced. And now in a social media realm, all citizen journalists are allowed to ask questions and push on things that the people in power positions would rather you not push on. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like the opposite of the early 2000s, where, you know, I think we were a little bit more civil. The people we went after were really hard to have sympathy for. So you went after rich and powerful. We love seeing someone fall off of their perch and, you know, hit the ground hard. And regular people really never got that gaze. But when citizen journalism, it's not just going after a public figure that can manage it and have PR people and can defend themselves. Now you have, you know, a sheriff in a small community that's like, oh shit, you know, I'm not used to this kind of attention. And citizen journalism can give that attention to smaller power brokers that, you know, are standing on top of information that the public. I mean, I can't remember the last time that I said they went and had misinformation, or everything they're talking about is true. It might be sensitive, but at least it was true.
Yeah. And that's kind of my point is I'm like, it's not like they're spreading misinformation. It's not like they're like purposely spreading hate. That's inaccurate, blah, blah, blah. To me, that's what it feels like is I keep wondering like, are they just being censored because they were shining a light on something?
They're hitting sensitive topics. And think about it. Like, what was your relationship with information prior to this age, right? You had 3 news networks, maybe a couple cable news networks, the newspaper, and talk radio, right? And the reason why talk radio was so valuable, because you had someone with differing opinions that could say whatever the frick they wanted. They could push as far as they wanted, and the more they pushed, the more the public loved it, because they didn't get to see, like, I'll say this, traditional media is captured by the people who pay the bills, right?
Yeah. And
they also do a good bit of protecting the people that they are friendly with. It is really hard to make the argument that they would, if they pick somebody who was prominent in the community, that they would take the same aim at as someone who they weren't friendly with. They would be a little bit harder on the people that weren't part of the community, a part of the network, and didn't spend ad dollars and all of that, versus, you know, a doctor who there's no downside of going after somebody. And it was really slanted on who got good news coverage and who got bad. I know for a fact that if I ever had any wrongdoings, I would fully expect the MLO bros to come at me just like anybody else. And I'm friendly with them. And it's sort of this counterweight to good behavior, because you know that you're not going to be protected because they shook your hand a couple times. You know that they're just truth tellers. And I feel confident and better about it that we have somebody out there that's not captured by an interest and willing to silence some narratives.
Yeah. I mean, I've even heard them say some probably non-flattering things about themselves.
They do all the time.
Yeah.
That's as long as you're consistent in your approach. But if you had like the Jim Acosta deal, Jim Acosta was ruthless with every Republican president, right? And then a Democrat president in that press poll, now he's a little lapdog. And that inconsistency is where I take somebody and I throw them out with the wastewater, because that, come on, you're just a fan. You're not a journalist.
And you see that everywhere. I mean, to me, NBC, left, very hard pushing against the right. Fox News, they're right, hard pushing against the left. Like, where do we get information that is truthful and unbiased?
There are very few. Name a reporter in our area that you can't tell their politics based on how they report things, or at least the editorial, the board, the people who put the stories together, that don't have a slant in this direction. I know one reporter, Gary Ricciuti. Okay, he's probably one of my favorite, because he is probably the most consistent reporter in my lifetime that is here local. I have a lot of respect for him.
Who does he work for?
It's a good question. He might even be an independent now.
Oh,
but I think he was KBN.
That's another interesting thing I've seen recently, are people that you see working for like a major news outlet that goes independent, that uses social media to drive their own brand, their own reporting. They're not really like...
Well, they're really valuable, right? As soon as we started putting like eye candy on the news and it was more about the aesthetics instead of the integrity of the journalist, then it just became an entertainment network. And I like my news not to be filtered down through. I like to hear. I found a website over the weekend that basically was an aggregate news site. All right. And all they do is they post an example of pro and con for every news story. What this network's saying and what this network is saying. And then you as the reader can read both slants, mash the two together, and get sort of like an unbiased by default, or, by process. Yeah.
I do that sometimes. There's a site I've used in the past when it's like an election year and I'm trying to figure out who I want to vote for, to make sure that I'm not like sort of allowing my bias to take over in any way. There's a site you can go to that just has issues and 2 ways to look at it. Like, here's the issue. This is what you'd be voting on. Some people feel this way. Some people feel this way. Where do you feel in that? And you just select your answers. And then it says, you look like you lean more to this person. You lean more to that person.
Okay, I got a philosophical question for you.
Okay.
So do you think that there is a controlling cabal, right? Organized conspiring narrative writers on the information that's disseminated? Or do you think it's a natural consequence of just having people, like, for instance, women end up in teaching, right? Because they gravitate towards that. So we just have industries that are dominated by a certain type of person. So that it just ends up being like an accidental consequence of just those types of people being in lever controls.
I feel like it might be a little both. I think there are some natural tendencies to gravitate to different things. And I also think there are people and organizations that use that and run with it, or maybe push a little to affect it. Or 100%, I think there are people, organizations, entities, whatever, that tries to control narratives, for sure. I think it's probably not difficult for them to do based on our own nature.
What would you do? Something happens in your family that's embarrassing and you don't really want it to get out. If you had controls to be able to shorten the travel of that information, would you do it?
Guess it depends on what it is. Like, if I could, like, say, we're nixing this. No, we can't let this get out.
If you believe in the free flow of information, then even when it's directed at you, you believe that people should know about it because they should be able to take an honest opinion of you knowing all the information. But you know the information is going to blemish you, and you would rather people not know it. So would you use your controls of power to be able to throttle and minimize the exposure to things that are not going to be complimentary? If it's a human tendency in you, and I know your answer is yes, if you could control it.
Probably would try.
Of course, it's defense mechanism.
My biggest fear there too would be, in this age of misinformation, my fear is that the info that comes out would be wrong or worse than what the actual situation
is. Well, that's a different topic. Let me continue down this path. So if it's a human tendency to get defensive when it's you and your own, you'd probably be even more willing to do that for someone that you care about, protect them from that blemish, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm picturing. As someone to me that's important, I'd be like, oh, we gotta stifle this.
Exactly. So if you would do it as a human being, and it's reasonable in your brain that you would want to protect yourself, if that's a human tendency, don't you think that if you were friendly, if you're a news anchor and someone who you really liked, you might take that paper and put it at the bottom of the pile, hoping that it didn't get out? You're a human and they're your friend, and it's not going to look good for them.
I would understand someone who did that.
Okay. Yeah. So you just multiply that by millions of people that have millions of different interests, and you can see how whatever makes it to the top was outside their ring of influence. So that was fodder that they were willing to take, and the stuff that they wanted to protect was closer to the bottom of the pile. And our founders sort of gave us the insight that says we got to protect what a government is from human tendencies. Not that everybody's going to always be virtuous and noble, but there's a correcting principle that washes that out. Well, starting with the labor movement up, right? What we did was we insulated people and gave them things like tenure. Right. Yeah. And we gave them sort of an arbitrary protection against people that were on our team. And rather than the regular market forces of society from being able to wash people out that are bad, like if somebody told a lie in Congress, you'd expect immediately they'd be washed out. It should be a rule. You lie, you're gone. Yeah. Right. That would be a correcting factor that you wouldn't have very many liars, because the consequence for lying in Congress would be you're no longer in Congress.
Yeah, like it's so interesting that the positions of power or positions in this country we have that should be under the most scrutiny, that should be the example setters, are like the worst because they're untouchable. What do you do?
And those, like I said, once we create so many, and the justifications are good, but I want the Wild West when it comes to misbehavior. So a judge gets a DUI, he's no longer a judge. A cop speeds and he's no longer a cop. If you do the thing that you have an authority on, then you should know, just like a bank teller robs a bank and you wouldn't want them to be a bank teller. It's because the only people that should be in those positions are ones that could take that baton and responsibly wield it. And if they're just as, failed as us, right, then they can't govern or rule us. There has to be a corrective mechanism that washes them out. And that's where the free flow of information helps us not lay down cover fire for the people that are on our team, but, totally alienate and isolate the people from the rest of us.
Carter says, I believe people might think they are butting into areas that they don't belong for clicks to put their name out there.
Well, yeah, that's what you do and what I do. Everybody wants okay, spoiler. This is the attention era, right? It's a very loud, flashy, take your attention. You've got 30 seconds. You got to do your elevator pitch every time. People who do not garner attention don't have a voice. So I like conversations, right? I love when people talk. Big advocate of Charlie Kirk because he brought people to the table and had really uncomfortable, awkward conversations that disagree with one another. Mm-hmm. And his motto was, when conversations stop, violence happens, right?
Yep.
It gets really bad when people stop talking. Things go bad
when you don't talk, right. Yeah.
And my motto is that you got to get used to hearing things that you disagree with and intelligently defending your position against them. More speech, not less speech.
Yeah, you give your opponent time to speak.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, so I don't think doing things for attention is necessarily something to be ashamed of.
Yeah, and here's why. I've heard that quite a few times when it comes to the MLO bros. They're butting into an area they don't belong for clicks and to get their name out there. First of all, number one, what do you think every major news organization does? They butt into something, they get ratings from it, they make money from it. It's a business of shining light on attention, number one. It's not like that's a unique idea. It's not like if you believe they're doing that they're the only ones. Number two, why don't they belong? Why is that none of their business?
Again, the sensitivity that you coming into an area and someone says, I don't want your voice in this area, that's where you F up. Because I think everyone needs, if you have an opinion, right?
Yeah.
Throw it out there and let it be debated. Let it be combated.
Yeah. So I don't get why don't they belong? Oh, they're talking about a school in the area. A school in the area in which they live, they don't belong?
All right, so every post on social media, you post in a bikini. Did you do it for clicks? You post your kid first day of kindergarten. Did you do it for clicks? You put a pithy statement or something humorous. Did you do it for clicks? So literally everybody who participates in social media does it for clicks and attention.
Yeah. And I bet you anybody who says that, and I'm not ragging on you, Carter. I'm talking about other people that have said certain things similar. Like, you do it too.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand how we can be so hypocritical and inconsistent when somehow when that guy does the same thing you probably did the freaking this morning.
Yeah.
Right? Somehow that one is not as good as the one that you did.
Yeah. Do you have an influencer you follow? Is there a podcast you listen to all the time? Is there a favorite show on TV you watch all the time? That's okay. Do you turn on the news when you get home or in the morning? Do you read the newspaper? That's okay. But someone else giving information out. The
thing is, like, we don't live in a homogenous culture, right? And so you do have my flavor of getting people to the table, which is an intellectual debate about it, really delving into the details of it and having more philosophical approach. Well, they're different. The MLO bros punch things and really get entropy started. It is more effective in this deal to do things the way that they do rather than the way that I do. I'm not going to try to become them, and they're not trying to become me. They have an audience that really, is hungry for that kind of content. So I'm not going to say because they're different than me, so then somehow they need to be more like me, right? Both in the marketplace are required and necessary. And there's downsides. To be like them, I could list on a piece of paper all of the consequences for behaving the way that they do. And I can list on the same piece of paper the consequences of doing things how I do. And I think both of us are necessary in the marketplace.
And it is so interesting in our culture that when you see something you don't like or disagree with, you are their most active interactor. You know, like how many times do people who don't like MLO Bros comment, write in, call in, say stuff, interact with them? Same with anyone. I mean, we post stuff on YouTube and TikTok, and there's a lot of times people will take time out of their day to write something on our videos that they don't like. And it's like, do you understand? You just increased our algorithm. Like you just sent us further into the internet. Like people who are saying, oh, I really like these people. Oh, I like everything they do, are probably silent and just listening. And the haters about something, it's like you're the one that's creating their platform to begin with.
Exactly. That is what social media algorithms feed. 100%. Yeah. And so once you realize that you can get lots of exposure by getting people really, going, then you do more of it because it even garners more attention to you. So,
which is why we have bots. Like you ever watch a video you like and there's just a horrendous comment. Somebody made a hateful comment. Somebody said something very divisive, and all of a sudden you're amped up and you're responding. That may not even be a real person, but they're like, ooh, I got to get someone to fight with me because then this post goes further.
That is, like I said, we're not telling you secret sauce here.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody already knows this. And so when you point out that someone's doing it just for the same thing that you're doing, it's a little bit of envy that someone's being paid attention to more than you, and you don't think other people should pay attention to them as much as they do, right?
Yeah.
And you're almost saying, since I don't like it, I want it gone, right? I want it to be, and it's one thing to have a philosophy like, I don't want bad things to, misbehaviors to get all of the attention, and someone doing a good deed to get none of the attention, right?
Yeah.
Because in a perfect world, in my utopia, that we would take all stupid people and we'd muzzle them. We would take all bad people and we would neuter them. And the only thing we would read about in the newspaper were all good things. And we would gravitate. We'd go home and open the newspaper and say, I can't wait to see what kind of charitable work was done today. I can't believe I want to read about the successes of another human being. I wish there were more people like that.
Oh, yeah. But people all the time will come up with some sort of news source and they'll say, we're going to share only good news. That's great. But you're probably not going to be very big or successful. That's just not what sells, unfortunately.
I had this was in probably the early 2000s, right? I got really mad. And every time, okay, so I'll give you the story. You may have heard it before, but anybody who's listening thank you, Mr. Isaac.
Hi.
So there was a robbery right before Christmas. A church had their, the vestibule filled with gifts that they were going to give to children. And there was a robbery where someone came in and stole all the gifts out of the church right before Christmas.
Like the Grinch?
Like the Grinch. And when this happened, the congregation got together and replaced all of the gifts, right? The community chipped in and replaced all the gifts. Feel good story of the season, right?
Yeah.
And I opened the newspaper and I read this article, right? And it was the most condemning, self punch in the gut article that you could ever get. There's one little sentence at the very end of the story that said, oh yeah, by the way, the congregation replaced all the gifts, right? And I got pissed. And I wrote to all of the news agencies and I said, listen, this is for the editor. It's an embarrassment that we spend so little time highlighting the good that people are willing to do. If you would have wrote that story, 90% of the charitable reaction from the congregation and only meant the origin of their good deeds, but it was a gut punch to my community. I believe in my community. I think we have really great people in our community. I know that people's first reaction are really outpouring and giving. So instead of embarrassing me, let's write some articles that compliment the people that live here rather than condemn them.
Yeah. And I've been saying that on a national news level when we had the school shooting in Minneapolis. And there was an interview you can see online with a kid who was in there, and his best friend laid on top of him and covered him and saved his life. And his friend got shot. I think he's okay. I think he said his name was like Vincent or something. And I was like, where's Vincent? Let's get attention on this kid. Let's talk about this kid. Right. Everybody knows the shooter's name. Everybody knows his background. Everybody knows about his manifesto. Forget him. Let's highlight the kid. A child did this. Not a grown man that you think is brave. Not a first responder. A child did this. Like, let's highlight that shred of hope for humanity. I still think we should. Obviously, kids are in the hospital healing. I 100% think we need to shine a brighter light on that, on the people who helped in the situations. With this Charlie Kirk thing, there's a lot of fighting, obviously, about it. But one thing I think is so great is the positivity coming from it. Mm-hmm. It's so interesting that I said the Grinch when you talked about your story. Is I've actually been, I don't want this to sound like I'm trivializing the situation. I'm truly not trying to do that. It can't just be me. Have you at all felt like we're in a time currently right now that feels a little like the end of the movie, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, when the Grinch is like waiting to look down at the suffering and the crying and people being upset over what he just did, and instead they're singing and they're coming together. No, I know this. Listen, I know this sounds like an overly optimistic viewpoint.
Okay, Cindy Lou Who.
I know I am being overly optimistic, and depending on what you're reading in the news and stuff, it could be because I have shut myself out for the last several days about the negativity, and I've only been looking at the positive stuff. But I feel like Dennis says he gets it. I feel like we're in this little. We're not so much going to be quite so angry, but we're going to come together instead, and we're not going to let the Grinch win.
I'm hopeful for that. Finishing my story. So after that, after I wrote all the editors, I got 0 feedback. Nobody wrote me back. Nobody responded to it. And so I said, F it. I'm going to start a website that I'm going to aggregate the news articles that have positive. I want to reward them and give them extra exposure on social media, have a full website. And I launched the Youngstown report. Every morning I would go out, I would scan the news, I'd grab articles that showed off how good we are and what good things are happening. 4 news articles every day, put it on there. Probably over the course of 6 years, I got 1,000 people that viewed that website. On social media, I did a little bit better, but they were individual articles. It wasn't part more of a movement. Versus if I would have done the opposite, where if I would have went bad news all the time, people would have been addicted to the negativity of that site. And I just was not willing to be more of the problem. Because I look at it in when you want to control society, you want to change people, right? It's slivers where if you can say something that brings one more person to make a change, have more faith, do a good deed, pay it forward, that kind of a thing. If you do one and everybody's doing that, it sort of works like the Pay It Forward movie, right? Yeah. You have everybody converting more people into doing better things. It works the opposite when you have divisive things. Every day, one more person gets slivered off, and where they might have been neutral before, and now they feel like doing and saying bad things that makes the world a little bit worse. So we're at a point where we were slivering off and we were giving no reason to feel good about things or be optimistic. We were just going down the path of making more and more people that were willing to go berserk, right? Yeah. And then you get this pop off like we had with the Charlie Kirk and the subway shooting or subway stabbing. And then again, the hope is that you get an outpouring, like you get a change where somebody was like, I was in a bad space before. This thing snapped me to attention. I'm going to go to church and dedicate my life to something. So we have the opportunity for more of that to happen, but it's got to have bigger trajectory. It's got to be more of a movement towards something. And so long that the politics kind of pulls us back to the, hey, lower the temperature and be nice to people. And let's remember Charlie for this and let's spread this, whatever. And it's only going to be a matter of time before outrage switches flip enough until all those moderate people that were halfway flirting with doing better deeds, get jaded again and come right back to the deal where they were before. They're upset about that. This will wane, just like 9/11 waned, all of those other opportunities. But there's got to be, without tragedy, a second outpouring, and it's got to be rooted in virtuous things rather than anger, resentment, and vengeance.
Yeah, I think what we need to do in this situation we're in now is add action to it. Don't just lower the temperature, watch what you say, think about things differently. No, actually act on it. Actually do something. And it sounds trivial and it sounds small, the whole like pay it forward thing where like people pay for each other's coffee in a coffee line or something. I've actually thought there's a business in Struthers that has a digital sign out front, and it has their business name, and then it keeps flashing to a picture of Charlie Kirk, and it says rest in peace. And it's a business that I honestly don't use. They sell things I just don't use. But I'm like, there's got to be something in there I can go buy, something. And I want to go in there and just be like, I really appreciate your sign out front, and I want to give you some business. You know, like something little that shows somebody, oh, there's goodness, there's caring, there's action, and then do it somewhere else and do it somewhere else. And, you know, I feel like it is starting with this movement, either back to church or whatever that looks like for you. I feel like to make this last, action has to be what is different in this situation.
Okay, so let's solve that. So at the end of every year, everybody gets the idea they're going to make their life better and they're going to get a gym membership, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because they are filled with emotion, they're inspired, their daily routine changes, and they're like, I'm flooded with positive emotions of making myself better. What percentage of people by the time March hits are no longer flooded with chemicals? They get back to their regular routine. Now they're looking out for things that are other than making themselves better. It wanes, and then they give up on whatever that is. But what would it take then if you were in that position? If you could say, hey, you're going to do this. You're going to be fired up. You're going to go do it for a little while. You're going to not see, great fast results like you did on the very beginning. Now you got to stick with it. What advice would you give you when it comes March to do something or say something or be something that will keep you going to the gym?
A support system. I think support systems are important. I'm in one now. I started last October working out with this trainer and making sure that I'm working out with weights and getting information about eating better. And it's a community of women all doing this together. And there's a whole Facebook page for it. And you can talk to the trainer and people hype each other up and people share information. It's like this whole community of these like-minded people all trying to do it. And I think that can be beneficial for people
so maybe we should invent an institution, right? That you go to once a week, maybe on Sundays. So I'll pick Sunday.
Might be a good day. Yeah, like
and it's a community of people, and they have the ideas and principles to take yourself out of it, work on community, remind you of the things that you already know, give stories of philosophy about why you should do these things and how you should do these things, keep you accountable along the way, have people that are further along in the journey, have people that are just getting started, and be there for one another. And you meet every week just as a reminder of what things you should probably already know, which is pretty common sense, but as a reinforcement.
Yeah.
Let's invent that.
That's a good idea. I can't believe somebody hasn't already thought of that.
Yeah. But it's good for human beings.
It is.
I'm almost certain of it.
And another thing that, they're sort of always talking about in this workout community is this idea of motivation versus discipline. Our motivation right now, our high emotions will start to calm down.
Yes. Around March.
So that's when discipline kicks in. Mm-hmm. I made a commitment back when I was motivated, when I was understanding how important this was. And even though I no longer feel as jazzed about it, I have to still keep doing it. That's discipline. Like you do it and then your motivation will return.
Well, in business, we write a mission statement when we start a company as to why the heck we did it in the first place. You get 2 years deep in a company and you get hung up on like all of the things that exist now. It's helpful to go back and read why you started in the beginning. And then there might be some stuff that you went off grid and the marketplace took you in that direction, but doesn't support why you started doing it in the first place. So on, on New Year's, if you're like, why did I want to do this in the first place? I want to be able to walk up steps without being exhausted. I don't want to get sick all the time. I want to be able to go outside and play with my kid, right?
Yeah.
And I wrote those things down. And then in March, when you read that, you're like, oh, okay, this is why I did this. And look how far I've come. I've gotten better at that, but there's still way more to do. And that's almost like you can only, even if you didn't have the community, you can be held accountable to the sticky notes that are on your monitor, reminding you why it is that you started doing the thing in the first place.
And then you start to just become the better person. Like, have you ever done something that you truly in the moment, you didn't feel like doing, but you're like, but that's what you do. That's the right thing to do. Right. You know, and it could be something small. I remember being somewhere one time and there's a piece of garbage by wherever I was walking in. I don't want to touch the garbage. I don't want to do that. I just want to go in and go out. And I was just like, it's the right thing to do. And I picked it up and threw it away and washed my hands. That is a very minute example of what this could become. If we all just went, the motivation, the gung-ho-ness may have faded, but we can still be the people that do what's right because we've been disciplined to be that way.
Okay, so we got three things. We got discipline. We've got the purpose and motivation, and we've got accountability. These seem like concepts, that I'm inventing or just came
like, new crazy idea.
New crazy idea of keeping civilization glued together by having discipline, responsibility, accountability.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, Julie, I feel like you'll have something to say on this. It annoys me when a celebrity or sports figure says something and they are told to shut up and dribble. I feel like you're the one who would say shut up and dribble.
Yeah.
Or like if an actor uses an award show to speak out on something and you're like, just make a movie and be quiet.
Yeah, okay, so have you ever watched a show and in the show they start talking about something that you know a lot about, and that show gets it wrong, like a boomer who maybe had a consultant that gave him the Cliff's Notes?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I want someone's opinion, I want someone who's an authority and has expertise in what that content. I'm watching a show right now, Blind Spot. Okay.
That sounds familiar.
They do a ton of tech stuff, quantum computers and hacking and whatever. And every time they say something that is not true, like is a total fabrication, I can't watch that episode. I get so hung up in the inaccuracies. So I do consulting work for politicians.
By the way, sidebar, sorry. Today is National IT Professionals Day.
Oh, those days.
So have a good day.
F those days.
Anywho, sorry.
And so I do consulting work. So anytime legislation comes through and a local politician has no idea about it, they'll come to me and say, all right, give me the 20-minute speech on everything I need to know about Bitcoin or about dark web or about hacking, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, these people are going to make really important decisions, right? And I feel like you go to grandpa's house and you teach him how to use the VCR. You might give him all the real information, but the context and the ability really is not in that person. I should be making that decision. Like, you should be able to have a proxy vote where you bring in an expert and the expert actually comes and makes the decision because you're too stupid to make the decision. Yeah. So do I want to hear what LeBron James says something about social, right? Anything in social activism? No, I want you to dribble. I watch you and pay attention to you for one reason. I don't care what music you listen to. I don't care what shoes you wear. I don't care. You throw the ball in the hoop and you guard someone, right? You put up a defense against someone. That's why I watch. I don't give two shits about if I wanted social activism, I'd go to someone who I trust and is authority on the deal. And that's it. Just like I wouldn't go to the actor that's on Blind Spot and ask them about the quantum bullshit that they just threw out on their show. I wouldn't ask that because they're talking out of their ass and I don't want to hear.
So your thing isn't even just don't do it on the stage in which you're performing. Like if you're an actor, don't do it during an award show. If you're if you're an athlete, don't do in an interview about that. What if they do it on the side? What if they have their own podcast?
Yeah, if they're an expert with authority and they're not just using their platform to leverage some propaganda against all the mindless drones who will do what they say because they don't know any better. That's what the one thing you notice about the Charlie Kirk. Most of this evil is a bunch of dumb people who can't even wage a debate or argument about what they even think they believe in, because all they've been done is they've been droned through the people they pay attention to, who are also mind-numb dummies out there. So yeah, if your political philosophies were engineered by LeBron James's and a rap artist or a race car driver or whatever, you're in really bad shape, and you won't be able to sit across from me and hold your own because you're too stupid to even have the opinion.
What if it's an athlete, actor, what have you? That is their job. That is their main craft. But they also have a background in international affairs.
You have
expertise,
right? You actually put the time in to speak intelligently about something. Cool. That means if I challenge you on it, you're not going to sound like, an idiot when you defend your position. Like if it comes across to me as, hey, you said you don't like this. Can you tell me why? If it sounds a whole lot like, it's because I'm a basketball player and a bunch of people listen to me. Like if that's your answer, you're not going to sit across from me and have a philosophical debate about it.
Yeah. I was just telling someone the other day, I said, I refuse anymore to get into a discussion or debate with anyone that can't tell me what their opposing view is. Like when I hear someone say, oh, I don't like, we'll just say RFK, like, oh, RFK said this. That's terrible. And I go, why did he say that? What? And I said, why? Why did he say that? Well, I don't know. Well, then we have no discussion here. Like, I can tell you why you feel that way. I can point out things you've seen that say, oh, I get it. I get why you feel that way because you saw this, this, and this, and that makes you feel this way, and you probably think such and such. Yeah. Why do I disagree? Why do I say this? Well, I don't know. Well, then what are we doing here?
Bunch of idiots. So now if singers and athletes want to use their platform to say things like don't do drugs, work on your weight and whatever, fine. Okay. Because that's common knowledge, and you've leveraged your platform that may have some kind of result where somebody gets healthier or somebody doesn't get in destructive behaviors.
If they can say,
fine,
I'm at a level of success in my field.
Don't do that. All the things that you can tackle using your celebrity status, and you pick the one that creates division, and you weren't even smart about it or had a position that would hold up the scrutiny. Come on.
Oh, there's some comments above. We got to go up.
Okay.
Keep going. Julie, I would like to tell Springsteen to shut up and dribble. If only, we had that. What makes a celebrity so much more trustworthy than anyone else? Just because they are celebrity, it doesn't make their opinion in fact, especially when they become more known for their comments than their talents.
Exactly. Know your lane. Like, stay in it, know it. What is your position of authority, and stick to that authority.
Yeah. Julie says, I look for reasons to be positive to others when I'm out. Your hair looks great. Thanks for your excellent service. Extra tip. You are short $8 on your groceries. I've got it. I get more from that than they do. Yeah. Like if everybody's sort of gotten that mindset and continued it, use discipline to say, this is what you do at all times, no matter how you're feeling.
Yeah. What if you just did an experiment in any place you went out in public, that you were just looking for opportunities to give little subtle compliments to people and watch them light up as another person took time out of their day to make them feel good about themselves? Think about what that would do.
Yeah. Yep. And like Julie said, I get more out of it than they do. I did something one time in public for somebody, and it was a random stranger. And I remember I almost couldn't get through it because I was choking up so bad. I don't know what their reaction was. It was something that I sort of did from afar. I wanted to be anonymous and get the hell out of there. I don't know what they said or did or how they reacted. I just placed it and left and was like almost bawling. And I'm just like, what is wrong with me? I
ask that all the time. But then
rightly so.
Okay, so what's interesting when you do those compliments, it catches people a little bit off guard. And because I'm more of an introvert and I don't like having conversations, I don't make eye contact with people because they might talk to me and have drone on about something that I don't really care about. I don't want to hurt their feelings. When you level a compliment, they don't know what to say. So you're just like, hey, your hair looks nice. Oh, thank you. And then you go away and they never say more than that. Now, if they started saying like, oh yeah, well, I just had my hair done at blah, 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 and I use this kind of product, I'd be like, oh, now I regret even saying that compliment. I'm not going to do that anymore. But it's a safe play for me to make those.
Yeah, because I've done that. Like, I've seen girls and stuff in public, and I've been like, I don't mean to be weird, but I've got to tell you, you're so pretty. And they're like, thank you. I was like, just saying, like, I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable, but you're just really pretty. And they're like, oh, thanks. Or, oh, I love your outfit kind of thing. And like those tiny little things, like, does anyone ever randomly do that to you? Just a random compliment. And you're just like, that made my
Not
day.
really. No, I'm not one that's an attractant
Really?
to compliments. That is for sure.
Do you walk around with like a scowl on your face all the time?
No, I'm happy. And I act like a 12-year-old when I'm out in public. I'm always just having fun and, hanging out with my family and whatever. I'm kind of oblivious to people being around me on purpose.
It's probably easier for women to do because I feel like the same sex is going to do it to the same sex. Like, I don't think it's weird for girls to compliment each other. It's probably weird for men to randomly compliment each other.
Well, would it be if I approached you in a grocery store, I didn't know you, and I said, your hair looks really nice. Would you think I was hitting on you? Do you think it would be inappropriate to make a compliment to a woman?
It depends on how you do it. I've had people randomly compliment me and there's no creeper vibe. I've had some where there is a creeper vibe. It kind of depends. If you like came up randomly and you were just like, oh, I really like your hair, by the way, and kept it moving. Oh, thank you. But it's the guys like at a gas station one time. Well, you've got a nice smile. Thank you. And then they just stare and be weird. And I was like, you ruined it. This was a gross thing that you did, not a compliment.
This tone matters. So if I said, you're pretty.
Yes. Tone matters. Body language matters. And what you do immediately afterwards matters. So I've been in situations where it was just a compliment and it was nice and appreciated. And sometimes it's like, get out of here, creeper. Like, I don't like where you're going with this.
Well, after I levy the compliment, I am out of there. Like, I'm already awkward. I'm doing something I'm not comfortable doing.
That's probably a good thing. Because some people also get uncomfortable receiving a compliment. Like, have you ever said something nice to someone and they're instantly like, oh, or they justify like, oh, really? Because my hair, I was actually having a bad hair day today and blah, blah, blah.
See,
you're almost like,
no, don't traumatize me. Saying more things is my fear. I don't want to know where you got the dress, how much it was, you got it on sale, the coupons that you used, or any of the history. Just say thanks.
Yeah. And if you keep it moving, that helps. Like, I've done that too, where I also don't want to stand here and talk to you. I just like, I'll be in passing, be like, oh, that's a cute shoes. Oh, thanks. And keep it moving.
Absolutely.
Keep it moving. That's better for sure.
Dennis says that people are NPCs. And
is that non-player character or something?
And the simulation is real. Dennis and I agree that birds aren't real, people aren't real. We're in a simulation. And if the last couple weeks have been even more evidence that we are in a simulation where most people are bots, even the bots are bots, but the people are bots as well. So there will be, I think the first thing that pops into my brain when I think about this is, were you alive when Michael Jackson was popular?
Yeah.
Okay. People idolized Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And it would be weird that if he came out and did something publicly, then at school the next day, like, people would have the jackets and wear the gloves and emulate the people that they saw. And so and that kind of thing, when your hero or the person you idolize says something, you immediately adopt it, not because they're authority. You just did the thing. That jacket on anybody other than Michael Jackson looked absolutely freaking terrible. You looked like a goof, but nobody shamed those people and said, dude, let Michael pull this one off. This isn't about you. Yeah. It's about Michael. Someone like
that.
What?
I'm just picturing people in the Michael Jackson.
Yeah, you remember that era?
And the black shoes and white socks like he had. And
don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Someone like Al Franken, who had political background as well as being an actor and comedian. I'm fascinated because of the overlap on skill sets. If you can be an actor, right? And then you can get into politics. What's the common thread between those two things?
Pretending, acting,
playing a role, being able to lie and take your personal beliefs and distance them by doing the role and not feeling any way about it.
Becoming believable and making people believe something.
Fascinated.
Wasn't Ronald Reagan an actor?
He was. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Al Franken, lots of actors, lots of entertainers.
Zelensky.
He was a comedian.
Am I saying that right?
Vladimir Zelensky.
Yeah. He was a comedian?
He was a comedian, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And what I hear, he was not a very good comedian.
Oh, yeah. That's a shame.
Julie says, nobody is forced to believe anything. Just because someone is a politician doesn't make them smart. Absolutely. And because I regularly poll how many smart people I am surrounded by, the percentage is quite low. The chances that someone is electable and smart at the same time, going in opposite directions on my chart. So it is not the smart of us. Even when we're talking about this Charlie Kirk assassin guy, and part of the messaging and communication that he uses was through Discord. Watching boomers talk about something that they have no understanding of, right? So if you just heard of, do you use Discord, by the way? What is Discord to you as just an average person who has maybe a peripheral knowledge of something?
I don't. You're gonna have to explain that to me.
Okay, Reddit. Do you know what Reddit is?
Yeah, I'm not super. I know what it is, but I've not like been on it, or I don't know much about it.
Okay.
I know that sounds dumb, but
4chan.
Never heard of that.
Okay. All right. So these are going to come into play because here I have this, and I'm hopeful this will happen, but because we have so many brain dead people in government, I don't expect it to happen. These are sort of like, I'll give you Discord. So you could go out to Discord right now and you could create a server, and the servers have channels, and then you can make your server discoverable by people. So if I wanted
already lost. What is Discord?
Discord, it's an application. It's a website / applications, communication deals, like a message board system, but has private messaging. It has different channels, and it's used mostly by gamers. Discord was a way of communicating.
Okay. I'm not a gamer. Maybe that's why I'm lost.
That was the origin. But now it's not just the gamers. Lots of other interests use Discord to be able to communicate with like-minded people. Okay. So if I played a specific game and it was sort of like a multiplayer that needed other people, I could create a group of people that also played that game and play with total strangers that would just collect and add members to and whatnot. Okay. So I could take a I like donuts server, right? Make it public and invite a bunch of people to talk about donuts.
Like and a network social media type thing. Okay.
And so it's secure to a point. And so you can be completely anonymous on it. So if I pick something like a fetish or illegal behavior, I could actually exchange information with other people and not put myself out there, right? And be known that I create a pseudonym and I contribute without it being me, right? Yeah. And then I can be amongst like-minded people who can support. So we had pedophiles who used it to be amongst other pedophiles and pass around. We had human traffickers who use it to orchestrate things. We have terrorists that use it to orchestrate communications, right?
Yeah.
And then we have Reddit, who was sort of like one of the only message board systems that survived the 90s when message boards were all the rage. And then you have 4chan, which is a offshoot of probably, if you want to find the worst of the worst and how they communicate, 4chan's your deal. I mean,
there's
some legitimate groups that are on 4chan. It's interesting if you look at the history, the people who founded it and what they did and when it went into left field and when it really went bad. It's a very interesting story to be told. You should research it. Wikipedia 4chan.
4 as in the number 4.
Number 4 CHAN. And I forget the dude's name.
Never even heard of this.
But what I said that I was hopeful for Let's see. What was
Anonymous English language image board website.
Christopher Poole in October 2003. Dedicated a variety of topics, video games, television, literature, and whatever. But anyway, these are places give sort of like refuge to people who want to communicate without the rest of the world paying attention. It was by design that it was usually a younger group of people who were there, so the adults were not there, and they could talk about and communicate and converse with whatever they. But anyway, my hope is that this, because he was said a lot of incriminating things on Discord, that the big balls of the government, they'll hire some 20-year-olds who have an actual understanding of this stuff and put law enforcement in these areas to discover the places that we could out someone. Because most of the time, the people who are doing really bad stuff, they hide behind the pseudonyms. It would be really difficult to figure them out. But if you had embedded law enforcement in these groups long-term, and communications are happening every day that give up information that could let law enforcement know who you are and who you're connected with and whatever. I've been in part of these communities, and I don't post often, but I really pay attention to it. And people trip up and give clues about who they are and where they go and where they live. Might not know where their house is, but you end up through context being able to figure out what state they live in and what school they go to, just because people can't help themselves, because once they let their guard down,
they trust.
Yeah, they start spilling stuff that can absolutely identify these networks.
There's a movie coming out, I think, is about this. Is it I don't know if it's Jessica Chastain or if I'm thinking of the wrong actress. I think it's called The Savant. I just saw a trailer for it. This woman acts as her job, I guess, is part of the government, and she foils terrorist plots and plans of people are trying to come up with to publicly harm others, and she's like interacting with people online as like a law enforcement type thing to foil evil plans and
I'm
stuff.
Gonna hate that show because it's gonna be blind spot, because that's what they do.
Yeah,
but they don't know their tech well enough to tell the story so that I'll believe that you could do that in the time that you did it.
Oh. You got to see Savant. I just saw the trailer for
please
it.
Don't make
and
me
then
do
this Ryan Gosling movie coming out. It'd be interesting to see your take on it, where he's like humanity's last hope about going into space and saving the earth against something. Okay. I don't know.
Julie says nobody is forced to believe anything. That's because someone is a politician doesn't make that. Oh, I read that one already. But Carter says Julie is very smart and sweet. And think every show we compliment the people who listen to this show, because even if I disagree with you, I love that you're here. I love that you're around.
I love that you're willing to discuss ideas and have conversations and hear other viewpoints and push back in a respectful manner.
That's exactly right.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have a group that, even though they might not say it, everybody at least hears it and they contemplate it. Where on the outside of this, it's not a personal thing. Like when you hear a reporter from the New York Post, they're just a person. They're not even really a person. They're just an apparatus of the New York Post. But when you know it's Joe and it's Kellen, you're human beings, right?
Yeah.
And I know Julie is a human being that calls radio stations and listens in. And I know Carter is a human being that does X, Y, Z. We've taken it that instead of just being, transactional and you're just a commodity human being, that's a real person that's on the other side of this conversation.
Yeah.
So I talk differently about a Julie and a Carter than I would about someone that I will never meet and don't know, and you're just a reporter.
Yeah. And maybe I kind of feel that way about the MLO bros. Like, I don't know them well, but I know them, and it's like people can get so amped up about it. And I was like, it's just Luke and Isaac, like it's almost like when you personalize somebody, it makes it a little harder to hate them, I think, sometimes. And we miss that aspect of humanity. There's an episode of Grey's Anatomy from years and years ago. I haven't even seen the show in years, but I used to watch it. And there was a gunman in the hospital. He was some distraught husband whose wife had died in the hospital, and he was angry. and he brought a gun in and was shooting people. And he came face to face with this one young girl doctor, and she just starts spewing facts about herself. I'm so-and-so, I'm so many years old, my parents' name or whatever. I grew up in this and that area. I have a dog, I have blah, blah, blah. And they're like, what are you doing? And she's like, there's a theory that you make yourself more human to somebody. I have a mother, I have a sister, I have a whatever. It makes it a little harder to act on you. Do you think we're losing that in this day and age? I bet you like a psycho would be like, don't care.
Well,
I don't know.
The thing that works against us is that we are not good at maintaining large groups, right? We're really good at less than 100 people that you even know, care about, and watch. So if you're going to pick only 100 inventory of someone that you know, someone you've extended relationships that they know you, you know them, you got to be really discriminating about who you let into that group. And so if you're extending yourself into an entertainer, it's a one-sided deal, and it's a very lonely place to have a relation type of, sort of like a relational angle on them without reciprocation back on your end. So if I'm going to only pick 100 people, I'm going to pick people who are loyal, who are honest with me, and so on and so forth. So it will be, you might be outside of that deal, and I'm not going to think that I owe 101 people. I know that I've decided I only need to have 100 people that are like-minded, and I don't have time for the drama that's on the outside of that, right? So yeah. I was thinking about this yesterday, where I take exception that when an actor dies, they make a headline, and the guy down the road that died doesn't make a headline, and we don't even talk about it. 2 people died. Why is one worthy of a headline, and then one who might have been a better person, have more integrity, contributed to society way more than that other person, we don't even talk about him? And you know why? Because that person that died yesterday wasn't in our group. Had they been in our group, it would have been in our headline. But the problem is we extend that group out into people like the Robert Redfords and, people that we don't even know. And somehow we mourn for someone, right, who doesn't give 2 shits about you. Not one birthday card from Robert Redford. If I died, none of people in his circle would know who I am. So it would be one-sided reciprocal. So I approve that I will romance the people in that 100, and that's as far as I go. So I'm not dead to the fact that Robert Redford, and it's not that I don't care about it. I decide that he's really not in my circle, and I'm going to save my emotional and my outpouring and my support for the people that are in my circle because they deserve it most.
So would you, God forbid, if something happened to Elon Musk, would you mourn him?
No, I think it would be a tragedy, just like every other deal. But he's not my friend. He's not coming to my birthday parties. He's not in support of my family.
You know what's so weird about that? I never met Charlie Kirk. I don't personally know Charlie Kirk. I've probably only known who he even was for the last year, maybe. I was so sad. I bawled immediately when the news broke. I was in tears for days. I still think about him all the time. I feel for his family. My heart just breaks when I see videos of him and his kids. What is it?
All right, well, let's talk about the psychological switch that flips. Okay, let's just say that you were walking into a place and some guy was smoking a cigarette, and you're like, hey, you got a cigarette, bum a cigarette, have a little conversation, right? Just 2 people talking. What if somebody said as you were walking up, see that guy over there? That's whatever, the famous blah, blah, blah. Now, when you walk up to that person without knowing that they were famous, it's a different interaction. Now, all of a sudden, you know they're famous. Do you talk to them different? Do you say different things to them? Or does it the exact same interaction?
I feel like I've been in a situation similar where somebody was like, oh, it's so-and-so. I was like, I don't know who that is.
Well, if you did, if you had a connection and knew after the fact, knew that what they were, would you talk to them differently?
I don't know. Maybe.
Most of us would. Most of us would feel that what we say has to be more deliberate. We couldn't just ask them for a cigarette because we'd be more polite to them.
It may depend on what they were famous for, to be honest. If I found out they're a famous actor or whatever, I would probably find that very cool. And I would maybe be more enamored. If it were like, oh, it's a famous BMX star, I'd be like, I don't care. You know, like, oh, they're famous for, they developed this program in IT that blah, blah, blah. And I would just be like, okay. Like, to me, it would probably be, can I relate
the
to
point is that
you're...
if you didn't recognize them, you would talk them one way. If they were important to you as a celebrity and you knew who they were, you would definitely talk to them in a different way.
Oh, yeah. Probably.
What about that, though? Why would you do that? What changes? What switches flip that say, because I know they're famous, that I'm going to treat them differently?
I think I would just think, oh, wow, here's somebody that has done really cool things and they're very successful and I want to know more about them and I want to know what went into this and how cool I get a chance to meet them when not everybody does. And yeah. Like, so, I feel like I have a story to tell that I've experienced something not everyone has. Like, I mean, I've done that like many, many years ago. A job in radio I had allowed me to go to this rodeo out in Auburn, and I got to meet Blake Shelton. And I have a picture with Blake Shelton. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's so cool. You got to meet Blake Shelton. And then I say, do you realize that whole interaction was maybe 5 seconds? Maybe. It was just walk up. I said, it's so nice to meet you. Oh, it's nice to meet you too, sweetie. Picture. And you walk off. I'm not kidding. Seconds. And everyone's like, but that's so, and I'm just like, it was cool. It was cool. I said a word to him. He said words back to me.
Why was it cool? Give me, this is the deal.
Yeah. And I would not even say I'm an enormous Blake Shelton fan. I like him, but I'm not like a diehard fan by any means. And it was, I met a celebrity.
That's what I'm saying. That right there is why the celebrities take advantage of their platform, is because they know it will resonate with people who will remember a 5-second interaction once you know that they're that person, and they'll treat it differently. You'll throw on the Michael Jackson. It'll be emotional experience for you, and you'll cherish it. For me, like, I'll try to avoid talking to a regular person, and I'll also try to avoid talking to a famous person. And I think what it is, I had a couple times where I got to walk around a city with a couple of famous people, right? And I got to watch, like, I was more interested to see how they dealt with being recognized and dealing with people who behaved weirdly when they were around. And I mean, they hat and sunglassed it up as much as they possibly can to be noticed. And they were so appreciative that everybody just left them alone. Nobody really paid attention. And I don't know if their disguises just made it better. And then they could just behave normally. But the minute that one person recognized them, everything about them changed, because now it wasn't a bunch of regular people who were there having dinner with. It was a bunch of fanatical people who all of a sudden start acting and behaving so off in left field that it made them uncomfortable.
There's a restaurant down in the town where we used to live in Georgia. And my husband and I were eating dinner and saw Jeff Foxworthy. And we kept looking. We're like, is that? And we asked our server, is that Jeff Foxworthy? And they're like, yeah, he actually doesn't live too far from here. His daughter goes to school near here. And so he comes to town every so often and visits. And I looked at my immediate reaction was like, I got to go say something. Followed immediately by, don't be a weirdo. Like, why? Why? Like, he's a man in a town eating dinner, trying to leave. And you don't have to just go say hi. Why? To say I said hi? He's not going to remember me. Again, I'm not a super fan. It'd be different if it was like, oh my gosh, someone I have just relished for years. I'm just like, no, it's just, oh, Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah, and there is a practice in not creating idols, people who you do misbehave or change your brain when they're around, and be consistent. And, you know, if you like somebody from a certain thing, cool.
Are you telling me?
Yeah.
Elon Musk walks in here. You're not in any way fangirling.
I have like 20 topics that I want to have a conversation about. If we're ever in the same room, I'm having my conversations.
Tell me your eyes aren't going to be beaming though while you're having, like, I'm having this conversation with Elon Musk. I've died to have this moment and this time with him for years.
The people that I idolize are for their intellectual prowess. So in that moment, I don't want Elon Musk to remember me, right? I want to know what he thinks about the same things that I think about. It would be a conversation that I would have, almost like if somebody, let me think. I was thinking about this last night. There was an example of when I had a moment with someone, the things that came out of my mouth, and I was so proud of myself because I remembered, right, to say the thing exactly how I wanted it to be. I didn't get caught up in the moment.
Like,
it was just
finally have my time.
Yeah, exactly. What I was interested, I could tell you I'm interested in right now, and I'd have that same conversation had he walked through the door. He's not a god, right?
Yeah.
He's just a really smart guy who takes a ton of risks, had a bunch of successes in the areas that I have complete fascination. So his ideas I am fascinated with.
There's a scene in the show The Chosen where Jesus sits down with oh my God, what's his name? The priest. Help me, guys. Begins with an N, I think. I know his name any other moment, but right now. Anywho, and they're just having this conversation, and it's this moment where he's like, I don't believe I'm talking to you right now. And I felt that. Like, is there anyone you would sit there and be like, I can't believe I have your time and attention right now, and I'm talking to you? That would be one for sure.
Yeah, just normal stuff, right?
Yeah, but still. Well, I mean, if you sat down with Jesus, you could find out some pretty cool stuff,
right.
I would think. But
yeah.
Carter and I DM each other to learn about each other and our views and respect each other.
Really? Is that a true thing? Are you being like flippant, or is that true? Because if that's the case, I love that more than anything on the planet.
You guys are a good example. Dennis says, I want to revisit your episode from when the Queen passed.
Queen.
Why? What happened there, Dennis? I don't know.
I don't know.
Were you idolizing the Queen?
I don't know anything about the Queen.
I don't know. Julie says, Charlie Kirk was not in my circle, but I'm told how to mourn for him and the words I can use about him in fear of retribution.
Listen, I've been dead silent on social media, right, about this deal. I've said absolutely nothing. No one's forcing anybody to mourn. There's only one objection that anybody has. Celebrating the demise of somebody who you disagree with.
Yeah.
And really, let's just say I said, okay, my father passed away, right? You as just a person that doesn't know me or my father, there's going to be acceptable things, right? And pretty much if you don't have anything to add, shutting up would be your best strategy. Saying, well, your dad was a derelict gambler, right? Is that the time to share your opposition to my dad's gambling habit? Probably not the case. I'm saddened. I'm mourning. All you have to do is either shut up or say, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't know your dad, but I'm sorry you're in mourning.
And that's the only issue people have. If you're not like on the side of, I am grieving over Charlie Kirk. I was a Charlie Kirk fan. This is so sad to me. If that's not you, that is totally okay. I know a lot of people that are like, I didn't even know. I've never heard his name. I didn't know who he was until this happened. That's fine. The anger comes from the people openly celebrating and being happy about his death. Obviously, that's not going to go over well. If you publicly state that.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, this isn't criticizing Charlie is not an expression of mourning, right?
Yeah.
And so telling you how to mourn, right? Okay, Julie, tell me an example of how you were expressing mourning that was being criticized by something else. Give me that example. Give me the quote of it, and I'll see if it's really mourning or you just capitalized on some crisis that somebody else was experiencing or sad about, and you took that opportunity to level them in that moment. And that is just bad morals to hit somebody when they're experiencing.
Another thing that just, it irks me when I read it. The people saying, I wish people were this outraged over the children getting killed than they were Charlie Kirk. And I take offense, not offense, but I don't like that either. Because number one, a lot of us were equally as distraught when the kids were hurt. It's not one or the other. I can feel bad about that situation and this situation. Mm-hmm. So you're wrong in thinking that somebody or everybody made a bigger deal about one than the other. He was just very high profile, so you're seeing more content about it. Don't tell someone else that they also didn't feel terrible for the other situation. Number one. Number two, well, you don't get to tell someone how to feel about it. You don't get to say, you should be more upset about that than this. Like, sorry, you can't control how someone else feels about a situation.
Well, I don't like those passive aggressive checkmates that they think they are. You're being an asshole when you say something like that.
Yeah.
So if the real question, like if you're dancing around, I'm going to come to you and say, hey, are you sad that Charlie Kirk is dead? And you say, yes, I'm sad that Charlie Kirk is dead. And then I say, hey, are you also sad that a kid was killed in a school shooting? Yes, I'm very sad that a kid got. Now you've got your answer.
Yeah.
Am I both sad on two different things? Now you have your answer. But I want to accuse you of being sad about one and not the other without just asking you and finding out if that's the case, because it carries social weight to make an accusation that you can't even defend yourself.
Yeah. You know what that says to me? You don't understand. You don't know what's going on.
You're just being an asshole.
You're
That's all that
trying
is.
To start a fight. You're trying to justify your feelings and behavior.
You're being an asshole, and you're picking a moment that's sensitive to another person. And because you can't sit on what your emotions are telling you to do, you act like an asshole and use words that are hurtful to somebody else. That's just you being an asshole. Doesn't solve anything. Like if it were really a activist message and you were like, hey, you know what? We added all of this energy into the Charlie Kirk assassination. Let's add some energy over to school shootings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool messaging. I'm totally there with you. Sometimes things that are more dense, like the Charlie Kirk thing, get way more attention than the school shooting thing. Great. That is a fair, that's a fair argument. Yeah. And maybe that will make me and inspire me to take some of my emphasis and move it over here where this just needs as much of my sympathy as the Charlie Kirk thing. That's reasonable. And I wouldn't call you an asshole if you said that.
Yeah. There is an observation that you can make, but yeah, certain things you say are just being ridiculous.
Maybe Nikola Tesla. Yes, maybe Nikola Tesla. All right. Nikola Tesla would be another conversation. Oh, no, I wouldn't. I don't idolize Nikola Tesla. I wouldn't be in fangirl mode. I wouldn't get his autograph. I wouldn't get a picture with him, but we would be talking about his imagination controls. And
you wouldn't at all be like, oh my God,
no,
it's Nikola Tesla.
I don't behave that way. Yeah. I would jump onto every
behavior and thought are two different things.
No, I would say,
tell me you won't think.
I would say I'm in front. Like, okay, you go to the library and there's a book of all the secrets of the universe, right?
Yeah.
All the secrets of the universe. When you go up to that book, you wouldn't waste time being excited about being in front of the book. You take the opportunity to get the secrets you've been longing for if you would just be in front of that book. That would be how I would act in front of Nikola Tesla and Elon Musk.
Nikola Tesla was dining at a restaurant you happened to be at. Would you go over and be like, I have to take this opportunity to get the knowledge I have been longing for from you?
I would say, I see you're eating dinner. Would you mind either now I have a couple of questions for you, or maybe at a later time I have a couple of questions for you? Would you be willing to do either of those two things? Yes or no?
So what's the difference of me going up to a celebrity and being like, I see you're eating dinner. Would you mind that I interact with you now or later?
I would say a smart person is going to say, what's the purpose of this? And me wanting to absorb some knowledge from two of the greatest thinkers of all of human history, that would be my purpose, is I want to garner some of that knowledge. What's the purpose of taking a selfie? So I could show off to my friends that I took a selfie with a famous person. Not the same thing.
If it's like, I've looked up to you for years. I think you're extremely talented. I value what you do. And I want to let you know that.
Because maybe they never heard that before and they need a confidence builder. And
because I care deeply about what you do and I want to let you know that.
Yeah, less purpose. Purposeless.
Obviously, I'm going to post a picture on social media if I get that.
Yeah, so if you like their music, go buy it. Doesn't take a human interaction to get any of that stuff. You can send them a letter in the mail that says, I think you're doing a great thing. Same thing. The purpose is that an idol was in front of you and you wanted to be in the
you
same
could take a selfie with Nikola Tesla. Would you put it on social media?
I'm not taking a selfie with Nikola Tesla.
You liar.
I would not take I would not.
If I said, Joe, get in for a picture with Nikola Tesla,
I would take a picture of him only because I thought he was dead all this time, and how to do this is live.
Zombie!
Yes, that would be picture work.
That would be impressive.
Yeah. But I could go to Google Images and find pictures of Nikola Tesla better than my little iPhone's gonna take.
You met Nikola Tesla.
Yes.
And somebody said, Joe, why don't you get in with a picture? I'll take your picture. You're not doing it?
No.
Yes, I
would not. You know how many times I get pushed into pictures? I'm like, why am I even doing this? So many times.
Okay. Autograph. Get his autograph. Would you get that?
For what? For what? What am I going to do with this autograph?
You're such a liar.
Forge checks? What do you need an autograph for?
Do you want something to take with you? To be like, I remember the time I met Nikola Tesla.
I know that I met him. I don't have to, like, if I said, Kellen's not going to believe me, I better get some kind of marking and say, I met Nikola Tesla. I don't care that much to have you believe me that I met Nikola Tesla. I got to ask him my question about physics and his imagination and how he concocted innovations.
All right. You're at a baseball game and your favorite player hits a home run ball and you catch it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be like, this is great. Or you're going to be like, I don't care about this. Anyone want it?
I give it to the kid who's going to be way more excited.
Kids? What if there's no kids and you love the player?
I'll say I needed a baseball at home to play catch with my kid.
You're
anyhow.
Such a liar.
We did. We threw the baseball and went under the bushes and we lost it. So I'm down a baseball. I absolutely need one. So if I go there, I'm looking to catch a ball so that I don't have to buy it.
Does your body even produce like tears or
no? I have not. That was a conversation last week. Trying to remember the last time that I actually cried was a long time ago.
Really?
Long time ago. And it wasn't even in a sad situation. I was overcome by patriotic emotion. I think it was at an air show. And they did all this United States flyover. I was just, it was so much. It hit me. I started bawling.
Yeah. Yep. You haven't had that in years?
Years. Like, can't even remember.
I probably have it once every couple of weeks.
No surprise, Kellen. No surprise whatsoever.
I could watch a movie and I'm in tears.
Jerry says, I like it when the celebrity can be a normal person and not use their actor character. Martin Sheen protesting and getting arrested while blending in with the others, not being at the center of attention. I must now go buy myself my new Lincoln. All right. Thank you, Jerry, and enjoy that Lincoln. It'd be cooler if you did.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did. Carter says true. Dennis says I'm equally tired of the what aboutism comparisons to other acts of violence.
Yeah. And the thing is, we're not good at hearing things that we disagree with, but we're also not very good about debating those things. We go to these strategies that end the conversation. Everybody wants the jab. Even with
the mic drop.
Yeah, right. And that ends the conversation. You don't want to win or end the conversation. You want it to be always in the state of being perfected, right? Yeah. And so if you can add something that I didn't think about or I had a little blind spot on, then I get made better because of it. I'm not here to own you, right?
Yeah.
I know that I could own most people on these debates only because I'm more well-read and more researched out. But I know that everybody, even people that I really disagree with, are my favorite conversations because they throw out an angle and I'm thinking, did I not see this for a reason? Why did my brain not go in that direction in the first place? And I contemplate and I internalize it and I'm made more whole because I take in more information, not worse.
Yeah, I saw someone on social media. They had posted a quote of Charlie Kirk's and they were somebody who was not upset that this happened to him. And they're like, look at this horrific thing he said. And then I shared like, okay, well, you should probably know, here's the entire quote. You took that out of context. Here's what he actually said. Here's what he said before and after. And now it makes more sense. And it's actually not hateful. Oh, look at this. He said this. Ha, ha, ha. And I was like, oh, you just want to argue.
Yeah.
You don't actually care that you might be wrong. You don't actually want to talk about this idea of misinformation or taking things out of context or the idea that someone might have two different pictures painted for them. No. It's none of that. It's no understanding involved. It's just you're trying to get a gotcha.
Well, all right. So Tyler Robinson, when he came from a Christian law enforcement conservative family, there were certain people I watched and how they responded to it, that he's a conservative MAGA killed MAGA, right? And I just knew from the profile of what happened that there's no way that this kid stayed a conservative and was a MAGA donor and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to watch these people. And after it comes out that he was none of those things, I want to see what they say about it. If like they say, you know what, I was really wrong and I was too confident in my deal, made myself to be an idiot, and I'm sorry for doing that. That's one thing. How many of those I'm sorry's happened at all? Zero.
Yeah.
Zero I'm sorry's. About 25% of them continue to say he was MAGA and gaslit everyone, almost as in a delusional state that even though there was more information, they weren't coming off the thing. And then the rest of the people just switched gears and pretended like they never even said that before and just went on to the next criticism.
Or what they'll do is say, oh, we have an update. We were actually wrong about this. He didn't say this.
Very few.
And there's no remorse behind it. There's no, I understand how detrimental that was. It was just, oops, it was actually this, not this.
And you know what the real injustice is? There's one person who did retract and say I was sorry, and his movie failed, and he is a villain right now. So you have 10,000 people who didn't say the truth when they were hit and zero consequences. The one person that told the truth and actually said, I'm humble enough to say that I was wrong, got plastered, right?
Was that Stephen King?
Stephen King, yeah.
Yeah.
And same thing with Al Franken was another good example, right? So you have people in Congress who say, I didn't have extramarital affairs and whatever. Al Franken said that he did it, and he resigned from Congress. So the consequence went to the honest person, and the people who are the real idiots are still freaking there. So what does that reinforce in our culture when doing the right thing always, even though it was a noble thing, I have respect for those two people for that moment, but they're the only ones that got to pay consequences.
There is, I think, a PR idea of don't ever apologize.
No. There's the upside is minimal at best.
Yeah, which is a shame to me and probably to you and anyone else rationally thinking. If I get a legit apology, I do feel better towards you.
Right.
But there is a very big sort of PR movement that says when it comes to dealing with public things, don't ever apologize. Don't ever admit you were wrong. Just keep it going.
Yeah, and that's why
it'll just be worse.
We've given stupid people a voice. They don't know how to argue. They don't know how to hear things that are whatever. The people that should be in this conversation are just the smart people who deserve to be there. Everybody else should be given something to do that makes them not pay attention to the places that smart people are required to be. So that's where you have the people that won't come off their ideas because they didn't have a contingency plan B that if they were wrong. So they got to stick to it because it's like the only verbiage that were programmed in their dumb brains.
Yeah. Speaking of the
dummies,
these killers, I saw a really interesting video yesterday. And I'm not saying I believe this. I'm not saying we should take this as fact, but it's interesting. It's interesting to think and to contemplate. It was a sermon. I don't know if you know Pastor Josh something with Lake Point Church. He makes content online, and I've seen his content before, and now people are sharing this sermon that he just posted since the death of Charlie Kirk. And it's a lot of things you would think a pastor would say about God and death and things of that nature. But he points out, he calls it, I just want to connect a few dots. And he's like, I am not saying this is what this is. Obviously, there's a mental health aspect to these people. That's a very real thing, but interesting. And he talks about the manifesto of the Minneapolis shooter. And you saw that, right? Yeah. Do you see the picture that he drew? There's a picture in his manifesto of what he was doing, why he was doing it. He documented everything. And on one page of this, he drew a picture of himself looking into the mirror and a demon looking back.
Yes, I saw that.
And written in another language, it says, "Who? Question mark. I don't want to do this. And I think help me," or something. And then below it, it says, "Kill yourself." And he's like, we cannot just not look at that. Like, that's pretty weird. You know, almost this plea of like, I need help. I don't want this. And then just the writings. And it's in a different language, like I said. It's this image. The guy who killed the Ukrainian girl on the train. There's some documentation in his past, I guess, records that says he would call 911 multiple times and say, "I believe someone else is controlling my brain." And it's just like, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had pointed, I guess there are things in scripture about people going in and killing Christian children specifically and all that. And there's a whole lot of ways you can say, well, obviously he was familiar with this church. He was familiar with Christian background. He was from, like, it could be one imitating scripture, not scripture foretelling future events. But what do you think about all those little interesting points?
So when I was going through Sunday school as a kid, and we were talking about, you know, the scriptures and prophecies and whatnot, and there were lots of passages that point to, you know, demons, end times, you know, what the experience when the world was going to be populated with demonic forces and whatever. And when you never really pictured yourself living through those times, you felt like you were just a cog that eventually 1,000 years in the future that would happen. You didn't realize that you would be in that moment. I wonder, like, am I in that moment where you have demonic forces that are everywhere, more numerous than, you know, noble forces? Or did every generation feel like this was that same generation? And it was just, since we're apathetic and allow the next generation to come into it, that it just gets a little bit worse, but everybody has a sensitivity to their version of it. How many generations have said to their kids, like, "I'm sorry for bringing you in a world that's so terrible. I almost feel bad to bring you into this."
How many times have we been saying it's supposed to be the end of the world? Now we're in the end of the world. It's going to be the end of the world. Y2K is the end of the world. Years that's been the case. For sure. And I've not even, I'll be honest, I don't know what I believe. I would probably hear stories about demons and evil forces and be like, fairy tales, not a real thing. That's not real. Or is it? Maybe it is. Maybe evil's kind of real. Maybe it's just in different forms and it's just a newer way of I don't know. But
well, what do you think? You don't have to know, but when you say demons are of this world, what does that even mean to you? Like, what do you think of? And has it changed over the last couple months or years?
Maybe it's changed.
Okay.
I don't know if I believe in actual demonic, of the devil entities that come from hell and are these literal spiritual beings that are bad, wreaking havoc. I don't know if I believe that's real or not. I'm curious. I wonder. I think maybe. I don't know. Sometimes I just wonder if it is the idea of man in general is just not good. We're not angelic. We're not always on the side of right. And we do bad things. And then we call that demonic. You know, we say, oh, this evil entity caused this, when really it's no, humans themselves can just be fallible and twisted and sick in the head and whatever, and do things that we would call evil because we have no other way to emotionally describe it. I honestly don't know.
So I'm with you. I don't think there's, it's not a physical thing. I think it's a physics thing. And, like picture like electrons, neutrons, protons, right? There's attractions to different things based on how many or how dense something is. So if you have a lot of electrons, it draws in, the opposite forces of whatever it is. And Genesis sets it up that we are born all positive, right? We are unflawed, unfailed. We're as perfect as you can get when we're born. And you spend the rest of your life trying not to become cancer, right? Trying not to evolve into something that, obviously everyone decays. That positive force decays as time goes on. And you can attribute that to more of a sociological part where societies also will decay as it moves on. And death and renewal is what recreates the perfection. And then all your goal is to get it to stave off the death and decay as long as you possibly can. So there are people that are trying to keep themselves healthy, which means it keeps sickness at bay. It keeps the negative things from happening because you're having actions and motives, right, on purpose to keep the negative things out. So once you take a scorecard and you say what things are healthy and good and what things are all of the vices and sins. And what I'm going to try to do is, I know that I was only born in a perfect state and I'm gone from that. So no matter what, I'm going to have some of the vices and sins in my world. And the goal is to do everything you can to minimize the list of vices and sin that make you die and make you become cancer. And then you got to then project that out in a greater society and say, like, I can control me, but I can control my neighbor and the academic institutions and the churches and the governments. I can't control any of that. And if it's happening to me where I'm becoming cancerous every more day, even if I do everything right, I'm decaying and dying, and I can do something about it. What about the people who aren't doing anything? That means they're letting the decay just happen as rapidly as nature intended it for it to happen, where it reclaims their body and goes whatever. But then society as a whole, if there's nobody really pushing on people to become better and to stave off the decay, you get where we're at right now, right? Mm-hmm. So fortunately, I think society becomes a reflection of us. Something chaotic like the entropy happens, and we all snap to our better senses of knowing what's good and what's bad. Even the people who are delusional and thinking bad things are actually good and vice versa, they know deep down in their soul what is good. When they have a celery stalk and a cheeseburger in front of them. And you can make the justifications all day. And if I say, hey, here's the deal. Sorry to say, but the next thing that is bad for you, you're going to die. When I hand you the cheeseburger and the celery stalk, you're going to know which one to choose, right, when it actually counts. You could say, this cheeseburger is not going to be the one that kills me. If I tell you the next sin that you make is going to be the one that puts you in the ground and you value your life enough, you're going to pick the celery stalk because you know it. And so all of these societal people who want to change the power and control away from virtues, when there's a consequence in hell to pay, when you see Charlie Kirk getting killed, there's got to be some people that say, well, what if it's me being killed? And I got to do something with that, because if my mortality is on the line based on what society has become, I might be a victim of exactly. I didn't think it would get to that moment, right? Where I wasn't hoping and praying that everybody would just go around getting shot by people that they disagree with. But that's where we're at right now. Yeah. And that is the demon of our lifetime, the festering cancer that we allowed grow to the point where it's no longer under our control. It's bigger than who we are. And now we're a victim of the thing that we were fighting so hard to create.
Like we nurtured and made our own evil.
Because it didn't kill you today, right? You still did all of the things that made it stronger. And then the Satan or the devil or the evil were all of those things that will one day are going to claim you, and then one day be so powerful that you can't control it anymore. And that's, like I said, we're in that crossroads, I believe, right now.
So kind of like when we talk about, like somebody seeing this a horrific situation saying, oh my gosh, this is so terrible, this is not okay. And it's like, what did you curate leading up to this? Like, but you fed this, you fed into this, you kept this going, you pushed the narrative of this. And then when it finally comes to a boiling point, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how bad things have gone.
But thankfully, those people are few. Those are the minority. They really are. Okay. So think about, like, those are the captured people who aren't reasonable and aren't smart enough to be in this conversation. So I don't want to really talk about them. So if the Charlie Kirk thing happens and a bunch of middle ground people all went to church this last weekend. Okay. So think about why would they go to church all of a sudden? What would take a middle of the road, apathetic person all of a sudden have the idea to go to church this Sunday?
I think a couple of things.
Go ahead.
I feel like, a Oh, that pastor told a story actually about, it was a biblical story, and I'd have to think for a minute to get it right. But somebody in this Bible story witnessed the murder or the killing of someone else who was killed for their faith. And they went, there must be something to this Jesus thing. There must be something to this. Like, people don't just die for a lie. People don't just voluntarily get murdered or whatever, put themselves in a situation for nothing. Maybe there's something here. So I think curiosity is one. I think the desire to run more towards the good than the bad and the evil we're putting out there is another.
I think it's more simple.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What?
When people feel threatened, they start doing the things they know they should have been doing all along, like my example with the celery stalks, right? They knew all along that they should be warming up to things they don't understand and getting guidance by philosophies that are greater than them. And but in the regular life, we become apathetic because we go inside ourselves and we look out for ourselves. And the inconvenience of going, there's no reason or value in going to a community. Like, I'm doing okay. But the minute that your house gets broken into, you should have had an alarm system and lock your doors all along. But the thing you should be doing, it took a chaotic event for you to say, holy shit, alarm system right now, super important. I'm going to church. And so same thing, you have a heart attack. And all of a sudden you come to your senses and start doing all the things that you know that you should be doing. And then eventually you have that gym scenario, right? Where if you go through a bunch of chaotic things that are threatening, your mortality, you feel like you could go out and well, okay. So if there was a 50% shot that you walk outside your house and you get shot, right? Versus there's a 1% chance you can walk outside your house and you can get shot. Mm-hmm. Do you think differently knowing that I got a 99% chance that I'm not going to get shot? I'll be able to roll the dice and really do nothing different. But as the threat of your safety goes up, right? Yeah. You all of a sudden know exactly what the virtues are. 100%. And you start acting on them with way more motivation than you did before. And you get the realization that you don't have to wait till a chaotic event. Human beings will, because we're apathetic by nature. We wait until the burglary happens to have the idea of the alarm system. We wait for a heart attack scare before we go and start eating healthier. We get to the end of the year and do our gym yearly routine of going there. But anyway, but that's going to be the writing where it seems like demons, right, have way more power and way more influence right now. And good people, like, when's the last time, I know you go to church, but when's the last time you heard about the church doing anything, making the news about anything, making an impact in your community? When's the last time?
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever heard that.
Yeah, they've been under the radar. They've been servicing the 70-year-olds that knew what they should be doing and had the discipline to stick in. But then people our age, right? Mm-hmm. Life's too complicated for that. And you bow out of it. It's not real important, because you're right. It wasn't important until you get gut checked and say, holy shit, like, my priorities were kind of wrong and backwards for a long time now.
It's funny, the people I'm seeing now with the argument of, I don't need religion or God to tell me how to be a good person. Yeah. I don't need to know what good is through them. And then you celebrate the death of someone, and I go, I think you do.
Well, it's a good hypothesis. It's a question. Can I be good without the accountability? And I'm going to say, most people can't be good without that accountability and discipline. So sure, there might be 10% of the people who will eat healthy without having the heart scare and don't need you to tell them that they should go to the gym, and they can get their ass off the couch and go to the gym. 10% of the people can do that. 90% of the people can't. So when it comes to putting, thought experiments in front of those same people, here's a situation, right? Easy is going to be evil and hard is going to be good, right? You're going to need some details versus the principled person who say, well, I don't care if it's hard or easy. I'm going to do the good thing no matter what. If you can say 90% of the people are going to go the easiest route when it really matters. Sure, when everybody's watching, you get camera clicks around you when you do the right thing.
Yeah.
Can you do the right thing when nobody's paying attention and you don't get the accountability? You just do it because you're a good person. How do you become a good person who does good things without acknowledgement? It's going to take some practice and some exercise to be that good of a person. And we're surrounded by, go ahead.
Well, I was saying, speaking of that, doing good things without acknowledgement, and then kind of going back to your point about hearing what the church does. Why is that do you think we don't hear about a lot that they do because there's not a lot that they do, or there's just not a lot of coverage on it? And if that's the case, how do you show all the good works being done without being that person that's just telling everyone, look at all the good I did?
That's a good question. And the last part, I don't think it has anything to do with being a humble church. They are not quiet because they're humble. They are in an era that they have tons of critics, right? And the things they have to do will start fights. They have to go after and conquer the hearts of people who are really off the reservation. That's number one. And number two, the people who are in those pews, right? They're not up for a fight. They're not there, to conquer the world and make the world a better place. They show up, they sing, pull out their hymnals, they read a couple of verses, they give their tithes, they hang out with other people who are like-minded. So the church is in a predicament where the things they know they have to do and should do basically alienate the rest of the people who are shown up. They would have to servicing people who are not coming to church at this point. So they'd have to rebuild what the church is by going after the people without alienating the people who are already going there. And I think they're terrified that they lose what small ground they still have.
I have seen this. This has been a discussion recently in our church group about Christian music and how there's a lot of artists out there that a lot of churchgoers love. Brandon Lake was recently sort of in the spotlight where there is this debate sort of what is scripturally accurate and should be preached about and what is just a good song. And Brandon Lake sort of publicly stated, my music is to reach someone that isn't the average churchgoer. If you're already in church, you're already in church. You're already there. But what about the guy that came because his wife drug him there? Or he's like, oh, I said I would come today, and I'm not really into all this. And he hears something he relates to. And now he's like, oh, I like that. And he comes back again, and I like this. And he comes back again. And I have seen where pastors are like, we've got to be very, very careful about what we say and that it stays sort of in these guidelines.
Yes, because they're terrified.
And I get that. I said, I absolutely understand the guidelines and the importance of those guidelines. So where are the organizations or the people or the entities that branch out to get the, Brandon Lake called it Bubba. I make music that reaches Bubba, someone that isn't in there, that doesn't have the guidelines, that doesn't know scripture, that doesn't whatever, but something can still reach them and connect on their level. How do you still make that happen and stay in your guidelines? I don't know.
Yeah, they're managing the current roles is what they're doing. They're managing it, so they're adding people that are low-hanging fruit. This is sort of like the difference between if the church was either Jordan Peterson or Ned Stark, right?
Who's Ned Stark?
Game of Thrones, the opening couple episodes, he was loyal to the king. He was a badass that fought things, and he got his head cut off at the. So anyway, so do you want the badass that's going to punch people in the face and do the right thing to a fault because he's loyal to the principles, or do you want the person that's going to motivate and argue slow slices of bringing over because of winning people over with their intelligence and whatever? Well, I would say both are important, right? Depending on what the marketplace needs. Both of them have the same idea. The idea is to add to the ranks, right? Mm-hmm. Take less risks so that you don't, if the church hemorrhaged the people that were going there, I start playing loud music in my congregation. The 70-year-old who just came to hear the hymns leaves. So then you got 10 people who like listening to the new music that are brand new. Is the 70 that you lost worth the 10 new that came in for the loud music? That's a day-to-day conversation that are happening within the church. Yeah. But it gets off principle. It's like, what's the church's role? What does it actually do? Is it there to do the things that it should do? in the marketplace that it's being presented with, or do the traditional thing that it's been doing for 100 years and keep doing that? It's got to decide.
Yeah.
And the Ned Starks are going to be necessary, where it's like, hey, move all the 70-year-olds over to this one. We're going to call this one traditional managers. And this one are going to be the step up from that, where this is the one that captures the marketplace and takes big risks and lives by the principle of what the world needs from religion.
And I feel like the term for that nowadays is New Age. If you heard of like New Age Christians, people are calling them like, oh, you got to be very careful with the New Age because they're not following scripture properly. And it's this new idea that isn't accurate. Yeah. And I see where they're coming from 100%. If you truly believe that this is the way and the right way, I can understand you thinking that's important. But I can't help but wonder if the new way brought people to you that would not have been, then is that a wrong way? You know, there's a lot of religions that are very much against women speaking in the church, and women should never preach. And I look at that and I say, I'm only in church because women got me there. I was never a churchgoer. I didn't grow up going to church. I believed in God, but I wasn't super religious. And I even went through a period where I was like questioning. I don't know what I believe anymore. I don't know if this is a thing anymore. And definitely not going to church, but also maybe on the edge of wondering if maybe they're wrong. And it was women that changed my mind and got me back. And then men, of course, along the way, the deeper in I got. But some people, it's like, so who's right?
Nobody.
Who's right?
No, it's just like in other things. We're built of people. You're going to have the same fighting. You're going to have the same disagreements. You're going to have the same bad people infiltrating. All of it's going to be the same because it's all built of human beings. But knowing the purpose of what it's supposed to do, and then letting each church or denomination or whatever have its role. And let's just say this is the New Age church, and their job is to go out there and get all New Age people and preach what they're interpreted as the Gospels. And these are the people that are, I don't think uniformity is even possible. So if it was possible, I'd say, then we'll entertain it. But because it's not possible, I'm going to take that right off the deal. There's a lot of different people that need to be spoken to with the word of God, that there can be a lot of different efforts in different departments depending on what the market needs. And what the market needs at this point is it needs your fringe first level of defense, right? So if we used to take people that are coming off of drug rehab, right, and bring them into church. Now, these were the roughest people on the planet, and we're situating thieves, drug users, drug dealers next to 70-year-olds in the same church, right?
Yeah.
And think of the pastor's job and to have messaging that's going to resonate with 70-year-old that just wants to sing the same songs, and the ones that need to actually be spoken to about putting their life back together and giving them hope. That would be a hard ask from any kind of preacher. And so I looked at it as a nutshell of the churches, that I think being homogenous is really not a great end game for them. They've got to really say, okay, what does the world need most from religious philosophy, and go have a specialized SEAL team that does that, and specifically that, and not try to say, well, you're misinterpreting the Bible, and doing those little infighting things that erode the message and make it harder to proselytize and get more people to behave more virtuously.
That's complicated.
I know. We got so many dumb people that are involved.
We got comments too.
Yes.
I think chemical imbalances in the brain can create demons. So again, would you say that's using the term demons as just a human characteristic?
It's a snapshot. It's a measurement.
It's not. We're not saying an evil entity not of this world.
Yes.
We're saying
it's an electron.
Something we have created.
It's just an electron, right? And you can do things that attract more electrons to you, and you can do things that make sure more protons attract.
So do you believe in the idea of spiritual warfare? Do you know what I mean by that?
It doesn't really exist in my world. I'd have to translate it down. I think the natural order is towards chaos no matter what.
Yeah. But you don't envision good entity, evil entity fighting, and we're caught in the middle as human beings. Somebody on another worldly plane.
I think we are part of that rubric. That formulation is including us. I think it's not a demon. It is us. I don't think it's an external source that invades us. Just like if it were you versus nature, you wanted to live and nature needed you to die, right? It would be an opposing force that you would have to conquer nature, and nature's trying to conquer you. So that friction between the two is the balance that you play versus nature. Either nature is really strong, where there's a lot of poisonous plants and tigers that are going to kill you, and inhospitable, environments that you are now at a disadvantage because nature is winning on this one. That they have the advantage, you have the disadvantage. And there are environments that you've curated that are healthier and have less threats and have more safety and security. That's where you have the advantage. So I think the play between the two, the spiritual warfare, is just knowing whether or not you are on the borderline of giving up the advantage of that security, or the environment has the advantage and you're at risk.
So it's kind of interesting to think, like how I was saying earlier, I feel like over the last several days, I've sort of walled myself off from a lot of different negativity and sources of that. And I'm sort of trying to operate out of this more positive mindset, like, oh, the Grinch isn't going to win. The people of Whoville are going to be singing and everything's good. And then you could come in having fought with someone on the internet, having looked at all the horrific news, having any other issues, and you're in a totally different space than me. And we're operating our lives in two totally different spaces. And that could sort of
think about it. Your neurons in your brain are constantly reorienting themselves based on the stimulation that's fed into them. So you basically have a new brain on a regular basis. If you give it stimulus in a certain department, so let's just say you open a book and read, and you're curious and you're trying to have understanding. Well, the neurons orient themselves so that it's easier every time you do it to absorb information. If you like outrage and you're addicted to things like that, your neurons arrange themselves so you become outraged easier and more. Whatever you practice is what your brain delivers to you. So the chemical imbalances and the chemicals that we give the body with pharmaceuticals are controlling the orientation of those brains. So if you're playing the short game and you give a chemical dose that jacks with your brain to get you out of a depressed moment, is unhealthier than if you do practices that take longer, that orient your neurons so you don't become sad naturally, is the more healthier of the two. One should be a short term, like I have a headache and I took a Tylenol. If I have a headache every day and take a Tylenol every day, the problem wasn't my body's lack of Tylenol. It was something was causing the headaches. But if I never look at the underlying cause, then I'm going to think I'm a victim of circumstances where how dare the world, deliver me headaches, and it's everything that's out of my control. So that's why I fault pharmaceuticals so much, and I fault the addiction to negativity and pessimism so often. If you put 51% of your brain on things that make you feel bad, you have a 51% chance in my mind that you're not going to feel great about how things are. Yeah. But if you live in a delusional world where you filter in 75% of all good optimistic, you're going to have a higher opinion of how things actually are.
Why is that the delusional world?
Well, because you're doing it on purpose to be able to program your brain. If you know that, do you think there are more things about this world than you can contemplate that are bad?
That I can probably,
yeah. Okay. Do you think there are more things that you can contemplate that are good?
Yeah.
And so you have a choice of taking inventory of both of those two stocks. You get to choose. So you have to delude yourself into blocking out the things that you don't want in there so your brain can orient towards things. When I say delusional, right, it's not in the negative version of that. It is in just like my friends, my 100 people that I hang out with thing. If there are 350 million people in this country and you can only invite 100 of them to give attention and energy to, are you deluding yourself and excluding certain people on purpose? Yes. If you don't try to keep anybody out, what's likely to happen? There are going to be things that come in and people that go out. You're not really picking them. You're not on purpose having them around you. So sometimes you might have a bad friend experience and sometimes you have a really good friend experience. But if you don't take stock and say, well, I caused this by not being